Welcome back to OpenLine. We're here with Dr. Shawn Joseph, Director of Metro Schools. He's answering questions about the budget, and there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah.
You said in the next couple of weeks, really, you're going to have to come up with how you're going to cut this budget in some substantive ways.
That's correct. So next Tuesday, I will present to the board a proposal, and we'll talk about those options.
And is there anything, I mean, what do you want people to know that absolutely won't get cut? I mean, there were concerns this year when, there was one school that had some issue with paper and that kind of thing. What do you want people to know that are concerned when they hear, boy, we've had a tough year, and now next year may be even more difficult?
Yeah, I want people to know that as we look towards next year's school budgets, the majority of school budgets in Metro Nashville Public Schools has increased because we added $7.2 million to the budgets. Budgets are online, or they can go to their principal and get access to their budgets, and they'll see next year they got more money than they've had in the previous year in the majority of our schools. So I want families to know that there will be no impact on their school budgets. The budgets that the principals got approved will not change. And that's good news, because we want more dollars with principals in their schools making those key decisions about how to use those dollars with their families and with their staff.
What about for teachers? Salary increases, that kind of thing. What does this mean for teachers and staff?
And I'm working really hard to look at the budgets and to see if there's any possible thing that can be done. But right now, with $17 million in cuts, it looks like for the time, and this pains me the most, that we don't have the dollars to do anything dramatic like we did last year. I mean, last year I was able to give a 3% raise and a step for all employees. That was a significant increase, and for the record, I chose not to take a raise last year, and I didn't give a raise to any of our top leadership because it was just the right thing to do. That doesn't get out a lot as we're talking about those things, but we made sure teachers got it because they deserve it and they need it. I didn't necessarily need that. So as we move towards the future, one of the things that I've been talking to our politicians about and our business community about is that we really got to get serious about a long-term strategy to focus on compensation. This year, working closely with the teachers union and working with SEIU 500, which is our support staff unions, we collaborated and we did a salary compensation study to look at where we were in relationship to surrounding districts and districts in a 450-mile radius. And what we found was that our salaries are pretty competitive when we start. The challenges, though, for our senior teachers and teachers that have been in the district a long time, we begin to lag behind. And I believe we said we needed about 4.9% of an increase to really be competitive long term. So I've got to work with the mayor, I've got to work with our council, and I've got to work with our city leadership to figure out how can we commit to growth over a period of time that does not get stuck on what happens from year to year with our budgets. Can we come up with a strategy
to those older teachers?
Yes.
Give a substantive, real boost.
It's important
to their salary
because look, we have extraordinary teachers in this district. I mean, as I go around, that's what's getting us the results. It's not anything I do from where I sit. It's the people in those schools busting their butts day in and day out. It's the bus drivers who get up and get our kids to and from school on time, safe. It's those secretaries that greet families and are the caregivers of the day-to-day. It's our custodians that are cleaning our buildings. I lose sleep thinking about what I can do to make things better for them. Particularly, our paraeducators. We've talked about them. It will take about $1.2 million for us to be able to move their salary pay scale up at least 2 steps. And that's something, as I'm looking at this budget, I'm really trying to figure out, is there a way that we can do something? And if there is a way, I will do it.
Is there some creative thing, whether it be and I'm sure you're looking at this stuff, but combining schools or selling some school property, which is of course a one-time fix, and not a long-term thing. Is there something like that that you're considering and that you may be ready to do now?
So there are definitely opportunities for us to be more efficient in how we're using our buildings. I believe we had a process that we called MNPS Next that we started this year, really looking at the capacity of our buildings and looking at programming across the district. We identified, I want to say, about 23 schools that were currently under-enrolled. I mean, the challenge with an under-enrolled school is that you're going to pay for electricity regardless of whether it's full or not. You're going to pay for a principal and essential staff whether it's full or not. So one of the things that we've begun doing, and we did it this year, so we are actually consolidated Glenn Elementary School and Caldwell Elementary School, and we took the Murrell building and brought them over to Glenn. So we have freed up the Murrell building, and that building can be repurposed or sold. The board has not discussed that yet, exactly what we're going to do with it, but we do know which buildings are under-enrolled, and we got to bring the community in. When you're talking about closing schools, it has to be something that's beneficial to the community. I am committed to making sure if we do have to close schools that the parents are involved in the process and understand what the options are. We'll have to work with our local politicians to make that happen, but those are the tough decisions ahead for this Board of Education, that we have to consider that.
One other thing before we go to break, charter schools, the impact of charter schools, is there a change that needs to be made in some way? What do you see the impact of it being, and going forward, what's going to happen with Metro and charter? Yeah,
so this is what I have said time and time again. I think when Metro Nashville Public Schools began with charters, I don't know if we were real planful and thoughtful about where we were putting our charter schools, what was the vision of charters, and how do we make sure that our charter schools and our non-charter schools create an ecosystem where we have world-class, high-quality schools in every neighborhood. So we got a lot of charter schools. They're predominantly in East Nashville and North Nashville, and we have some capacity issues that we have to work towards with them. But look, if the school board has authorized these charter schools, we basically said at some point in our career we wanted them, and those families are our families. And I want those families to know that their superintendent is their superintendent, even though they have a different operator. We're one family, and it's our responsibility to make sure that their children get a quality education. So we have fiduciary costs that are associated with charters. Since I've been here, we've not added any new charter schools because it's a demand issue. But where I'd like to see us go is looking at the ecosystem of neighborhoods, looking at the programs that we have, and saying, do we have great programs? I mean, if there's a charter school out there that is doing something great and it's a great option for families, I say great, let them do that, and then let's have a neighboring school that might have another type of program, so families have real choices. As long as all the choices are quality, I'm okay with it. But we just got to make sure that there are quality choices in every neighborhood.
All right, we're going to take a break. If you're on the line, hold on. We'll get to your call, promise. Take a break. Be back right after this.